give you a play-by-play or what?
You got questions, right?
I do, but do the play-by-play first. It's a less fair environment.
What you're seeing here is a derelict white pine that had no use, couldn't be sold. So George's son is having it built up into wood for a rental unit because everything goes, these white pine boards will be dried, planed in sand, and you can make a hardwood floor, I mean a softwood floor, but a random width white pine floor, which would probably cost you $1,500, and we got it for just the price of cutting it. Jim Roberts is a sawmill, portable sawmill. Have mill will travel. You know, it's like have gun will travel.
Yeah.
Have saw will travel. And he's an unbelievable mathematician. He can cut it and do it so you get maximum width out of every tree. They're doing this exact same thing across the border, but they're speaking French. How do they know the difference?
Shampoo?
Yeah, shampoo.
What are you building here?
That swing there, and this heavy lumber is for a bridge over a small stream. So his girlfriend can get the lawnmower on the other side of the property. And that's all leftover wood there. But all the rest of it's baseball bat material. We're going to saw one.
What kind of wood is there?
That first one's an ash. Then you got a yellow birch and a maple.
Why is it important to have a variety of wood?
You never know what David Ortiz is going to want to swing next.
Does it really matter though?
No, ash is more brittle. That's what all traditional baseball bats are made of. Okay. Then they went to maple because of bonds. And a guy named Sam Holman, who had an operation out of the Lafayette Tavern in Ottawa, who took it upon himself to say, I can make a better bat. And he did.
And he did.
And that's Sam Bats, the one with the little bat wing on it. And a lot of the major leaguers used them. And they are very expensive and they're very well made. And they're made out of wood out of Quebec, around Hull, and you know, the, what do you call it, the Gatineau.
Yes, Gatineau.
The Gatineau wood. And so this wood is very similar. These hills are no different than the Gatineaus. You know, they're part of the Appalachian chain, and these are the Green Mountains. And then they extend all the way up into southern Quebec. See how he lines them all together? One pass right there, he keeps all the pass.
If I wanted to bunt the ball, what bat would I use?
Why would you want to bunt the ball? You'd have to run.
That's true. But pitchers don't hit.
Pitchers don't hit, but they got to bunt the ball. Any bat, you want a bat that you can handle, that's got a big barrel, that you can get the ball down on the ground and less recoil. Ash would be the better. You want a ball that deadens better.
Yeah.
You know, actually balsa wood or anything that's soft, but then you couldn't use it if you had two strikes on you and had to hit.
So how many bats can you make out of that wood?
1, 2, 3, 4. Bats there. 400. Averaging 20 bats per log. Some you get 24, some you get 12.
That's awesome.
You know, some you get different. You never know what you're going to get when you open up a log. You never know.
So once you cut
it's like Christmas, isn't it? Every time you cut into them. You ever think of? That's why I think of it. You've seen enough of them that it ain't Christmas. To me, it is.
So after you cut the wood, what's the next step in production?
You know, I was so poor when I was born. If I didn't wake up with a heart on, I had nothing to play with during Christmas.
That's where he gets the wood.
Sense the way I play with wood a lot. It's like David Cohn. He was arrested, you know, for indecent exposure. He was masturbating supposedly in the parking lot. You know, the great Hall of Fame picture. You know, just makes a new thing of doing the hand jive. Doing that crazy hand jive.
Makes me wonder if he got more curve on the ball.
They said you can talk about the season and everything, but don't ask him how his arm is. Exhausted. Yeah, there's a lot of that. Who was it? The great manager for the Expo, Mick Williams, was caught in indecent exposure down in Fort Myers, Florida. And he was my coach that year, and I went down. I actually saw the old man in the handcuffs in his bathrobe. I didn't realize it was Mick Williams. And they say he was out fiddling and diddling on the top shelf overlooking the Walgreens market, which I don't think he was. I think he was drunk, came out, had a cigarette because he smoked back then, got his towel caught in the door, spun around, you know what I mean?
Right.
And,
it does happen.
I lined him up in front of the judge and I said, this evidence isn't going to stand up in court. Figured I could have got him off.
Not in...
Here we go.
So once you cut the wood, what's next?
You'll see.
Oh, I'll see.
Go with this one coming down on you. Wow! See how he's elevating this end? Because one end's smaller than the other, he elevates it to square it off.
Oh.
So you get less weight. All technique in the sawing.
That's cool.
Isn't that cool?
It is.
It's probably the last log, right? Because he's gonna... Oh, Friday, right? Time to go, right?
We'll cut this log.
I agree. I'd be out here in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
You
in
dig
Quebec,
holes
they're at
for
the
that,
bar.
or does that just wear down like that?
I'd like that
Oh,
hole.
you dig that to level it off. Yeah.
I don't know if I did that over at Reed's or not.
Didn't have to, probably.
This log was real too nice looking now.
See, this is yellow birch. That's why I like that one right there. Some people call it silver, right?
You know,
Not really?
not really.
Sure looks silver to me today. This is the bats that Babe Ruth, you know, Yastrzemski, Ty Cobb, they used hickory too back then, some of them. But Babe Ruth swung a 40-inch 6-ounce bat.
Is that heavy?
That's heavy. Today they swing 32, 31.
And who's out of shape?
Yeah. Game has changed.
How so?
How so?
Uh-huh.
See that?
Yeah.
Now we'll take a 3¼ inch slab of it, no? We're going to roll it first. Okay. No, yeah, you want to turn it?
I'm gonna have to. I should have dropped those down before I started.
didn't.
Okay. Go one more. Good. Want me to fill those bags? You said these were a little bit soft.
Oh, that's right. Got drip water on these? You guys, they can work up some saliva and spit on this log for us while we're sawing it?
I got a lot of DNA.
Should have brought more guys.
Yeah, I didn't know.
No. I got a pressure washer over at the other side, and I should hook it up and pressure wash the logs, keep them moist and stuff.
That's how I bathe.
Didn't they do that in British Columbia? They roll their logs in the water, a big pond.
Yeah, it keeps them from squirting.
Huh?
Keeps them from squirting along.
Yeah.
It takes good balance.
All the mills in summertime, they're hard putting spray water on them anyway. Just keep them from squirting. We did oil those other ones.
See this one right here, this tree? See how the heart is right over on this side? It's because there's a identical log that big that was growing next to it. It was a double seed when it was there, and it grew up with two, almost like being a twin.
But you're also earthman. So are you at conflict each time you cut down a tree?
No. No, it had a good life. Now it's time to go to work. Yeah, your carbon footprint may be 0, but in Quebec on December 13th, you're also a dead bacon.
Not that the smaller 12 inch. It's not really,
Unless it's a small heart.
unless it's a small head. It's not really worth it.
It ain't worth it. Found that out.
Yeah, there's a,
It's awesome, eh?
I don't think bits I can play this happen.
How many bags are you manufacturing?
All of them. You don't know.
You don't know.
This is a, we're gonna find out. Turned out to be a nice day though.
Yeah.
Now it's supposed to rain.
You ever work outdoors in the rain?
Huh?
You guys ever work in the rain?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't like it.
Yeah, of
We
course
got
not.
an umbrella. It fits right up on top.
How about the snow?
Snow? We stacked them in the snow.
That's cool.
All these logs were laying in the snow.
Let it clean. So where they're not all covered with snow.
That makes sense.
Going up?
These been cut. These have been everywhere.
Oh, really? Do you guys cut them down, or
Some of them I did, yeah.
with power tools, or
Chainsaw.
chainsaw?
I got one in class.
All right, that I gotta see later.
What's that?
Chainsaw.
Chainsaw. I got one in my truck.
All right.
Everybody's got one.
Everybody has one. You have to around here.
I feel left out. That's okay.
You know,
all right.
You get home sometimes if you have chainsaw and stuff.
After a big storm.
Do you also make hockey sticks? That's good stuff.
No, you want to use that in the house or in your rig? You need those things? Oh, fine. No, look at it. Nothing.
Just throw them to one side.
Just throw on one side for firewood.
Right here makes great blocking for somebody.
Yeah. Walking for somebody who doesn't put what the hell, man.
Jack at a house or whatever. I'm sure you could sell these blocking. Really?
Wouldn't add to things. Wouldn't add to things.
Yeah, I mean, even if you get, 40-something boards, what's the you get your money back if you take in a while.
Watching. I like that. Put the whole thing on?
Where do you want to go with it?
Over here. Come on, let's get it.
One more way, somebody can get it on.
I agree. Where do you want to put these, you want to get it away from that fire?
Well, we don't want to end up like we did the other place.
Oh,
right?
I know.
It's too tight.
I'll get rid of that pile there, hopefully this weekend. I'll bring those boards up. Sean will be here, he'll grab that.
Okay, those boards are gonna go, right?
Yeah, we'll just make a pile of oil right there.
Ready? Or yourself. I will. Let me put it.
Yeah, we'll put those there for now, and I'll get.
I'll be here. I'll be here.
You get a shot from tomorrow.
I'm gonna get these ready and chop them up.
I got everybody coming tomorrow for the winery.
For the pool? Everybody's swimming tomorrow, huh?
No, we're putting the winery.
Oh, you're putting the line in.
Yeah, there's winter coming.
Perfect. You're right. That's a good.
Ooh, squishy right there.
It is.
Right.
So how far away is that from becoming a baseball bat?
It's about a third of the way there. Stack them like that. Let a little air get to them. Then we'll cut them in 37 inches, dry them, push them through a machine that turns them around, dowels them, stick it on the lathe, make a bat.
Oh, nice.
Get the bat off, sand it, dip it, put your marker on it, and send it on its way.
Wow. Are you going to sand it yourself?
No.
No.
I'm not a finishing carpenter. I'm good with the chainsaw and the big frickin' material. I'm not good with the rope.
Now, why is Louisville the Major League Slugger?
Louisville got in first. They bought up all the good ash in the Delaware River Valley. The trouble is, you can't find a good piece of ash there. That's why they went to maple. Men have been looking for a good piece of ash for a long time. It'll all balance. No, it'll settle. Ain't gonna be there.
Throw it out.
Yeah.
Put it on the end.
Huh?
Put it on the end.
Yeah. That'll have a bone. It ain't gonna be there long. I'll get that up within the week. For sure. Oh, I'm gonna cut it. I'm gonna chop those and get it out. It's gonna go out with that stuff up there. I'm gonna tell you something. When I drink and work, I cramp up bad. I can't drink. Putted as bad as I've ever putted, but I hit the ball so well, it didn't make any difference.
What kind of bat do you use?
Huh?
What's your go-to bat?
It's in my trunk, I'll show it to you.
All right.
I'll show you the finished product. See, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 16 bats out of that lot.
Nice. And you're going to ship them all across the country?
I hope to. Eventually.
Eventually.
We just got to make a better bat. These will be dried and I'll use them. That used to be the Reeves old farm.
Yeah.
Old man. That's a real fast throwing tree. That's a big grain.
I notice you don't wear earplugs when you work.
Huh?
He does.
I should, I know, I should. You can't hear anybody talking to you.
That's true.
Got it? Yeah, there's one tree. One lip.
Plus this, plus this.
There's 18 there. Ooh. Or, if I make them... You got a tape on you? No. He took his tape with him.
Yep.
That's all right.
We'll get some more. You got tape on you?
Right here, I'm going to make a decision. I'll show you. Here's a executive decision. Nope, that's 8.6. If I made them Little League bats, 30 inches,
They use aluminum.
I got 36 Little League bats there.
But in Little League, don't they use aluminum?
No, I'm gonna start making wood bats for them. They're gonna start using wood bats and help their swing.
So the aluminum bat's bad for
Tell you a
this?
great story. I go to a steakhouse on Mother's Day because I had to get away from all these women that were from Alberta living in my house. So I take Diane, I go there, and I have a beautiful steak for two. I have a bottle of wine and one hors d'oeuvre, and the bill was $114. I go, man, I got to get a job. someone overheard me at the bar because that was the day Big Baby hit the shot to win by 1 point to make a great ball game. And the guy goes, "You're a Boston fan?" I said, "Well, I was born around here, but I had to play for him for 10 years." And the guy goes, "You." Another guy at the bar spins around. "You Bill Lee?" I go, "Yeah." He says, "You got to help me. My grandson can't hit." And I said, "Well, it's going to cost you dinner." There you go. And he picked up the tab, and I coached his kid the next day.
Excellent.
So that was pretty good trade, huh?
Yeah.
That was my best trade that I'd had. And so I took his son. Oh, and he went up. Here's how it goes. He had an aluminum bat. Had a little Red Sox uniform. He was a little portly kid. He was 11 years old. But he weighed about 120 pounds, and he was rugged, but a little heavy. And he had these shitty shoes with these big plastic spikes that kind of made him get out of balance. I said, "Get rid of those spikes." I said, "Get something with a flat sole or get some metal spikes, the way we used to play as a kid." He shakes his head yes. Takes his aluminum bat, and I put the ball on a tee, and I say, "Okay, I want to see your swing." I said, "I bet you hit 4 ground balls to short." Bam, ground ball to short. Bam, ground ball to short. I mean, the ball's just sitting there. Ain't doing anything. I said, "You got too light a bat, you got too much top hand, you need a heavier bat, and you got to get closer to your work." So I put him in there. I put a 33-inch, 33-ounce bat in his hands and made him choke up. And he had the ball in the same spot on the tee, and he swung away, and he hit line drive over the pitcher's head over second base. Line drive. He hit 4 in a row. He goes, how's that possible? His grandfather, "How's that possible?" I said, "Hey, it's physics. You know, you just got to know weight ratio to swing ratio and everything else." I said, "Put more weight below your hands, bottom hand the ball." You know, and then I threw to him. Threw to him with the aluminum bat, ground ball to short. Threw to him with the wood bat, line drive to second. Line drive to center. Line drive almost kills me. You know? I said, "What have you learned today?" He goes, little boy said a lot. He said, "Did your grandpa say you had to have more top hand?" He went, "Yeah." I said, "Was your grandpa wrong?" He went, "Yeah."
Yeah.
You had to have more bottom hand.
Oh.
Yeah. You met John up there. You done. No wife show up? Nothing? I think she got arrested.
Not more.
She got deported.
Yeah. You don't have to worry about more swim tops in there.
No, I am so nervous having that woman in this country and being harangued by the government and everything. You know, we went and got married again in California last trip. On Wednesday, we got remarried in front of a justice of the peace. I had to change my whole income tax this year. I had to pay an extra, probably I have to pay an extra $1,500 in income tax because I claimed her as a dependent because I married her.
That's for sure.
Okay, are we ready?
Yeah, it's going.
Can we get the image on his shirt?
I could have his whole entire shirt.
There we go. Alright, so it's good to see you again.
Good to see you.
City number 4.
Not really.
Yeah, so what city are we in now?
We're in Craftsbury, Vermont, a small little borough hidden in the Green Mountains on a peanut plain where the Black River drains to the north and flows into Canada. Ooh, so we're on actually one of the tributaries to Lake Memphremagog, which actually flows into the St. Jacques River or the St. Francois and goes through Sherbrooke all the way, works its way, I think, to Sorel and the St. Louis, the Fleuve Saint Laurent.
C'est beau ça. You are baseball all the time, so explain the cap and the t-shirt, please. It's
The
nice.
cap could be construed as a Red Sox old-timers cap with Pittsburgh colors, but it's actually Burton Snowboard, which is a snowboarding company out of Vermont, which I really like. And the shirt is a picture of my dad when he played for Tommy Tobin's Bamboo Room, which was a bar. And I've got a bunch of other shots with him and his teammates. And the great thing is, it's a picture of 9 guys.
Oh.
So there was a 9, no one ever got hurt. And it's a great picture of him when he played. His father played for the Hollywood Stars back in 1918, which was a AAA team in the PCL. And his sister played pro ball too. So everybody in our family played pro ball. In fact, his mother broke her ankle sliding into second base when she was 47 years old.
Wow, that is good.
Yeah.
When I'm 47, I'm not going to be walking.
Yeah, you will be. You'll be fine. Just don't be sliding in a second. Keep your spikes up.
And your father played, was it the National League, the American League, or a third league?
His father
His
played
father.
played in the PCL, which is considered a AAA team.
Okay.
You know, which never made it to the big leagues. None of my family did, other than me, and my aunt played in the big leagues.
Right. All American girls.
All American
You know
girls.
what, we just got home late this afternoon.
So currently we're in Vermont. Is there a lot of... See, I looked up Vermont. There's not too many ball players from the Vermont area that made it to Major League Baseball. Except they claim Carlton Fisk is from Vermont.
Carlton Fisk
Bellows
was
Falls.
born in Bellows Falls, Vermont.
Oh.
Even though his mother and father were raised, and he was raised on the other side of the river, but there was no, the closest hospital to Claremont and to Charlestown, New Hampshire is Bellows Falls. So they drove down the road, crossed the river, and had him in Vermont. So Vermont claims him, New Hampshire claims him, you know, and they can have him back because he's a pain in the ass.
So, I'm going to just keep with the Vermont theme for a little while longer.
There were 2 other ball players that played out of here. Collins and a guy, Ray, can't think of his name right now. And he pitched, and actually pitched both ends of a doubleheader for the Boston Red Sox and won them both against the Detroit Tigers in 1917, the year they won the World Championship.
Nice.
And he was from Enosburg Falls. And there was another great ball player from, in the Red Sox Hall of Fame also, was from a little town north of Burlington, Colchester.
Oh.
And we're going to have to look him up too. I can't think of his name.
Where's
All northern guys. They were close to the Quebec border.
Where's Middlebury?
Middlebury's in the middle of the state, towards the New York border, just out of the mountains. It's where actually the most famous person from Middlebury is John Deere, the guy who invented the 3-hitch plow and basically started modern agriculture through the plains because he could break through the sod. And that was the claim to fame, Middlebury. And then it's got a really good school there, little Ivy League school, Middlebury, which is a great campus.
And I read that you teach there once in a while?
I teach economics and I teach baseball kind of history for the Dean of Students. He has a course, he brings me in as a guest lecturer, and we go about race relations, economic relations, the business of baseball, all of which I knew when I was the player rep, and it works pretty good.
So what would a student expect in that course? Say I'm in Middlebury right now and you're talking to me, what would you cover?
I would probably talk to you about the marketing of the game. They have a seminar on people that want to get into sports administration.
Okay.
They talk to me about the economics of the game, players' salaries in relationship to, you know, fan input. I basically know a lot about the game, and they bring me in there and they ask me questions, and they pick my head and things that they want to know about the game from the insider's point of view. And I can give them that because, you know, I was there for 14 years.
If I assume a common question would be, you put up their hand, can a team with the lowest payroll win the World Series?
Mathematically possible, but highly improbable. You know, you'd have to have a great manager like Red Auerbach was with the Celtics. You'd have to have everything work right. You'd have to have kids that you brought up that were young and weren't afraid and reach their potential in the first year of their existence. Yeah, it's about the only way you could do it. You'd have to be injury-free.
Right.
The other good teams would have to have a little bit of a collapse. but it could be done. I mean, you know, Tampa Bay, which went from worst to first all in 1 year, you would have to say they were a dream team. Even though they didn't win the World Series, they made it there, and baseball has that potential.
They beat the former champions.
Yes, they did, but it was only because they got rid of Manny Ramirez and the fact that he wasn't there, and a lot of things had to fall into place. And Lester's learning to pitch a little better. He's turning the ball over. He's starting to work the outside part of the plate, not pounding the ball in as much as he used to.
Is that important?
It's very important, because you just can't sit on one side of the plate. Hitters will adapt and sit right there and wear you out. And if you can't pitch to the outer part of the plate with any effectiveness, then all you have to do as a hitter is lock into where you want the ball, and you're going to get it there, because the plate is only so big, you know, and if you know where the strike zone is, you cut the plate in half, you only have to worry about balls in this zone. Every pitch looks almost the same, you know, but when you got to worry about a 72-mile-an-hour changeup that's going this way on this corner, now you have to adapt, and that's why a guy like Jamie Moyer that can pitch both sides of the plate can win, where a guy who throws 92 and only pitches on one side of the plate can't win.
Are there more and more pitchers who are able to throw on both sides of the plate?
Less and less.
Less and less.
Yes, there's more and more throwers because they develop kids the same way from Little League. They have this cookie cutter type delivery, which I believe is designed by a hitting coach, because he wants everybody to throw like Iron Mike so he gets a good look at the ball. In the old days, we used to hide the ball behind our butts, out of our glove, and we would throw a lot of different pitches at different speeds. We called that pitching. Now, they just want to impress the radar gun, because if you can throw hard, you have the potential to make the big leagues, and they say they can teach you to pitch. They really can't. You have to learn to pitch at a really early age, or you have to be very, very gifted. Maddox is a pitcher. Glavine is a pitcher. Smoltz was a thrower who learned how to pitch with his association with Glavine and Maddox. And then he could pitch both sides of the plate.
Is he with the Red Sox now?
He's with the Red Sox, but he's pretty beat up. I don't think he'll ever make it back. I didn't think he would make it back. And, you know, there's a lot of guys that, you know, Schilling, I knew he wouldn't make it back.
Right.
Looked like he had cobwebs in his armpit. He couldn't get his arm away from it. You know, it's like his armpit was starting to eat his arm, and it was starting to shrivel in like this, and these two little lobster claws.
So if you're always throwing hard, I would assume the life cycle of a pitcher is now diminished.
Wrong.
Wrong.
Yes. The harder you throw and the more flexible you are and you keep your arm loose, you can keep throwing harder and harder and harder. It's only when you throw too much and you end up hurting a ligament attachment, your labrium in the front. And that deteriorates, but the throwing hard, as long as it's efficient and you know your mechanics are good, you can throw hard for a long time. Walter Johnson threw hard up till the end of his career, you know, and there is an attrition that'll wear you down as you get heavier and older and you lose your flexibility. But if you practice yoga and do your stretching and eat properly and
well, how many ball players do
take
yoga?
about 500 milligrams of Advil before every game, you'll be fine.
All right, well, since we're in Vermont, I thought one of the topics that would probably come up in your Middlebury College is the environment in baseball. Can a team be profitable and go green?
Oh yeah, baseball is green. You know, it's a horsehide ball, stitched by hand, no machines. It's wound with yarn that comes from recycled wool. Your bat is ash, maple, or yellow birch that can be harvested with two Clydesdale horses and a man dragging it out. It can be lifted with a fork, put onto a wagon. It can be milled efficiently like you saw today with a wood miser, very economical. You know, we only burn 4 gallons of gas a day, and we can make up to 360 bats, so that's very economical. We dry it naturally. We can have natural fans that are turned by solar panels or windmills, and the breeze goes through. And then we can dowel them. That takes a little bit of energy, and then we turn them on a lathe, and that's very green. Your uniforms could be made out of hemp that was grown right on your property here in Vermont, you know, and hemp weave, make it breathable, so it's very efficient. People could actually go to the park in public transportation like they do in Montreal,
Right.
which is very green. There are many ways to have a really sustainable green culture as long as you do it efficiently and, you know, eat properly. You know,
Right.
do your stretches, do everything right, and this country can run a lot cheaper and leaner.
Even a major league team, let's say the Red Sox, can Fenway be green?
It is. It was built.
Well, the
it's
paint's
being.
green.
It's painted green. It's being recycled. It hasn't been torn down and rebuilt like Yankee Stadium. So it's the original place. Its environmental impact is going to be a lot less than Yankee Stadium being basically rebuilt 3 times. So yeah, we spent a lot less money, and we recycled our seats. We've added new inventions. We've used modern technology. We have the Canigliaro seats. You have the new bleachers in right field. You have the seats on the top of Fenway Park. You have the restaurant bar behind the center field fence. It is about as efficient and as green and as economical as any park in America.
So everyone's late to the party, but you're on top of the green phase earlier.
I did it in '69. I listened to the Meadows and Limits to Growth, which was written by 2 people from MIT, and I was on board with them, and R. Buckminster Fuller, and Frank Lloyd Wright is an architect, and Victor Pananak, which wrote Design for the Real World. You know, I always preached this a long time ago. I was into recycling before recycling was fashionable. I always was ahead of the paradigm, and by doing that, I offended a lot of people, Republicans and people that were just out looking for the bottom line. I believed in recycling way before it was fashionable.
Do you upset any Democrats?
Yeah, the Democrats are, you know, they're slow to the party too. Just because they're monikered that they're of the Democratic Party, you know, I think it was the famous statesman Will Rogers that said, "I belong to no organized political party. I'm a Democrat." So, you know, it's like the 2-party system does not work. You know, I think you have to have different views, but there can only be one right answer. This compromise and everything is not good. You know.
Well,
then you have the worst of both worlds. It's got to be my way or the highway. Like Charles Barkley said in his book, "I may be wrong, but I doubt it." I've always believed that the world works best with one decision maker, not with a lot of compromise and things. And
That sounds like fascism.
it's not quite, because it's a benevolent monarchy.
Right.
That's how I look at it.
Like the Holy Roman Empire?
Yeah, they weren't holy,
Right.
they weren't Roman, and they weren't an empire. They were a band of tribes that lived in a frickin' forest and dressed naked during the summer, you know, and slept with their farm animals.
Recently, you're inducted into the Red Sox Hall of Fame, and you went to the dinner, the banquet. How did that play out?
Not well.
No?
I was the only guy thrown out of my own banquet, basically, because I stood up. They asked me questions about why the Red Sox weren't winning, and I said, "Baby, they got tired of winning and they got rid of Manny Ramirez." So it was basically, I was defending Manny Ramirez and stuff. Now that he's gotten convicted of steroids and everything, but I could say they really didn't find steroids in him, they found female steroids, because I believe he's such a superior athlete that he has to take female steroids to compete with all these bad athletes.
So, by taking him out, did the Red Sox miss the chance of being repeat champions?
Yes, most definitely.
Despite the addition of Jason Bay.
Jason Bay helped, but they could have kept Manny. Manny was really, you know, I believe he would have stayed, and they could have got Jason Bay anyway. And that would have been a tremendous. Manny could have designated hitted and left, you know, had less strain on his muscles. You know, he was running out ground balls good. They made a pariah of him in the organization, trying to justify getting rid of him.
The Red Sox?
I believe the press did more than anyone everyone else.
The
And then
Boston press?
Yeah. Well, because it was the New York press that started it. It
Of
was
course.
McCarver and all those guys out of New York. Because if he is the thorn in your side that allows you not to be better than the Red Sox, why not spread dissension amongst the ranks?
Oh.
And thereby having him labeled as the bad boy. That way the Red Sox get rid of Manny Ramirez, and who gets stronger because of that? By the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, and
Everyone in the AL East.
everyone in the AL East benefits from Manny leaving.
Conspiracy.
It works that way.
Or did his agent say, they're not signing you, dog it out so they get rid of you, and then you get rid of the options?
Could have been a little of that too. But still, he has to play into the contract, and he's going to want to win. When it comes down to the last series against Tampa Bay, he would have hit so much better. They would have put another run per game, and that is the difference between winning and losing. And Manny was that difference.
And he'd protect Ortiz.
And he protects Ortiz.
Who suffered.
Who suffered terribly with his demise. You're right. As I saw it, you know, the team was not better without Manny.
So when you voiced that opinion, we said, well, you got to go.
You know, we got things. We got a lot of people to honor here. We're not here to hear you rant and rave, Phil, about it. I said, well, ask me no questions. I'll tell you no lies. If you want to know the answers,
Right.
you know, you gotta. If you want to dance, you got to pay the fiddler. And
So it was a Red Sox representative who said, okay, you got to go.
they
Right.
just kind of grabbed me from the back of the shirt, and I wanted out anyway. I was done.
You were hammered.
I was hammered. I was sweating bullets. You know, it was time to honor me, bury me, give me that plaque that looked like Mrs. Yockey and embarrass me to death, and then send me on my way back to my dad, which I wanted to be.
Right.
You know, he was very ill at the time, and he only lasted probably another week and a half. So at least he said, bring home the hardware, son. And I did, and I threw it on his chest, almost killed him.
Oh. But aside from former players, can you name some who were there along with you?
Mo Vaughn was inducted, Mike Greenwell was inducted, Frank Sullivan, who I found out was a great guy. He's blind in one eye, he's about 6'7", lives in Hawaii, ran away with Sammy White, left their wives, and they both ran away from their bowling alley in Brookline and went to Hawaii, never to return. Lived there for 40 years.
Together?
No, well they did, but
Yeah.
they were actually the first gay battery in the American League. No, just kidding. You like that, Frank? anyway, no, he went there. He's remarried, and I believe Sammy. I don't know if he's still on the planet, you know. And the funny thing is that we were talking, and we found out we were both from North Hollywood, and we were both born in St. Joseph's Hospital in Burbank,
Nice.
California. So there were two Red Sox Hall of Famers born in the same hospital at the not at the same time. He's a good 20 years older than me.
Instead of
What
a bad 20
a
years.
great guy. Yeah.
While you were there, Red Sox scout George Digby was honored as well.
Yes, he was great. Yeah, he was in great shape. Told stories. He had to be 90 years old. He was great.
So what were some of his contributions to the organization?
He brought a lot of players in. You know, he was the #1 scout that brought in all those ball players back in the 50s and 60s and 70s.
What makes a scout good?
A scout like Tony Lucadello is someone that can not use a radar gun and knows the kid has got potential and is going to get better, and they just have an eye for talent, and they are better than the other ones because they observe the game and see the kid play, and they know they can read that the guy has got a good heart. You know, that he's got potential, that he's going to get better and not worse.
So how important is it to have a good scouting team?
Great to have a good scout. Red Sox had good scouts. Montreal Expos had tremendous scouting, and they learned from the Dodgers. The Dodgers had tremendous scouting, and they always had great ball clubs. St. Louis always had good scouting, and they had good. And you know, some ball clubs just never did have good scouting. I think Pittsburgh had its time, learned from Branch Rickey, and brought in a lot of non-white ball players after he had left.
Bobby
New York.
Bonilla?
Yeah, and they brought in that whole group of guys that ended up winning back in the 70s when we were a family. Willie Stargell.
Cost Montreal the championship.
Willie Stargell did. Then a lot of guys did. Stan Bonson threw breaking ball to Schmidt. Schmidt hit the home run. You know, Schatzeder couldn't get out of the rain delay in '79, and we ended up having to play the playoff game and lost. You know, we lost to Pittsburgh that year. You know, '81, the Dodgers beat us because Rick Monday, they brought in Rogers instead of me, and Rick Monday hit a hanging sinker right over the center field wall.
He went and hit it off of you?
Never hit it off of me. I get Monday out right now. Of course, he is about 65 years old.
Well, you're 62?
Yeah, but I'm staying shape.
There.
They aren't hauling timber around like me all day.
That's true. I saw it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the new season's 2 months old. There's been good stories and not so good stories. So we'll get rid of the bad part first.
Oh, the steroids?
Well, I wasn't going to say that. I was going to go recently. Alex Rodriguez
Yeah.
confessed that
Bad
during
hip.
his time with the Rangers, he used performance-enhancing drugs. And now he has a bad hip.
Yeah, it's you know, funny thing is, it's his push-off hip. It's not his, it's funny, I don't know if he hit it, because that's not the hip you hurt torquing. It's usually your landing leg that takes the most stress. Your back leg and stuff comes through. He may have been from fielding, a lot of other things, or it could have been where he used to inject himself.
Maybe.
Could be in the area, you know, a lot of guys. Clemens had a bad hip too. You know, a lot of guys get caught, you know, in the injection spot. They get a lot of...
But if he's the top earning ball player
Yeah.
ever, does that give a message to everyone else to be like A-Rod?
Yeah, it's a very difficult thing. If you don't, you won't be as good as you can be.
Right.
Which sounds like a slogan for the U.S. Army, you know.
Be as good.
So I'm a theorist that maybe they should legalize everything as long as it's not detrimental to the long-term health of the individual. And how are we going to determine that? It could be that these illegal steroids are not on the market because Merck didn't make them or Upjohn didn't make them.
Oh, I see.
You know what I'm saying? And this is a way for the big boys to control everything. And it's more or less that the little guys get out.
Well, you were injured and your friends have been injured, but sometimes you're put on the field before you're fully recovered.
A lot of times.
A lot of times. Cortisone, is that bad?
Too much of it can ruin the epiphyseal layer of your joint lining and make it rigid and wear out a lot quicker, you know, but it also helps you recover from injury. Too much of anything is bad and not enough is bad. So it's a fine, some people can use steroidazolidine, butazolidine and be fine. Other people are going to be perceptive to that type of poison and deteriorate more rapidly. Who's to say what the magic bullet is? All I know is that one of my friends had brain cancer. Father had brain cancer, and they injected him with steroids, and he was frisky and fine, and he was doing a lot better and everything, and it kind of regulated the tumor down. But he, you know, he had knee replacements. He couldn't move around, but with the use of steroids, the boy said his father was like he was 17 again.
Oh.
So, you know, there are classic examples. A lot of people with lupus get injected with steroids. A lot of people have eating disorders, Crohn's disease. There's a lot of treatments when your adrenal cortex doesn't produce, you know. So to use that as the culprit and to say that steroids blanket is bad for mankind is a disservice to your adrenal cortex, which produces steroids all the time. That's what allows people to do superhuman feats in battle and things like that that normally would not have been accomplished.
So fill someone up with steroids and go to war?
Well, they used to have cocaine in the Coca-Cola back in World War II.
Right.
So they wanted to have them a little more alert than downright depressed. So it's better to be on edge with caffeine and everything else. Is caffeine bad for you? Some people say it's an antioxidant and it actually helps you. Tea and everything else. They now have coffee that you can buy, organic coffee with antioxidants added.
Oh.
So.
I was going to say Manny Ramirez.
Yes.
But he's gone for 50 games.
Yeah.
When he comes back, is he a diminished player?
Might be a little smaller.
Right, but can you stop and go at the major league level?
Oh, is Manny
A little
going to be
smaller.
diminished? We will wait and see.
Yeah.
Is he going to be a little slower, a little quicker? I don't think so, you know. He was going through a cycle of supposedly where he was trying to reboot his adrenal cortex by taking the female hormones to get him back on a normal cycle. What is his normal cycle? Everybody goes up and down, up and down. You know, he was hitting the dog snot out of the ball at the end of last season and the beginning of this season. I always say a ball player can be good 2/3 of the season. And then 1/3 he's going to be kind of worn down and diminished. You don't want that 1/3 to be at the end of the season.
Right.
You know.
But are the Dodgers going to suffer for 50 games?
Well, maybe his downtime, they took him out when he wasn't going to be proficient anyway.
Maybe.
You know what I
Maybe.
mean? They gave him a rest and allowed him to come back and be even better. So hopefully he comes back and dots the I and cross the T's. But I wouldn't pitch to him.
No.
No.
But with him gone, does that mean the Dodgers have to change their strategy?
Yeah, Juan Pierre's got to show up, and he has. It's called Juan Pierreville now out there, and it's like Pierrefonds.
You're right.
Rock bottom.
So-
Rock bottom, Quebec.
So part of the art of managing, you lose your future Hall of Fame slugger. So how do you recover? Because it's crisis management.
Like you said on the first question, is it possible for a small market team to win?
Right.
You have to have people step up to the plate. You're playing for Joe Torre, one of the great managers of all time. If you can't get up for him and get up for a major league ballgame, he has an uncanny ability to make people play better than they are. And that's amazing that the Yankees got rid of him.
And he writes a good book.
And he's a great guy.
Oh, so he's a Yankee and a great guy.
Well, he wasn't a Yankee. He was St. Louis Cardinal.
Right. And now
It just
Dodger.
happened. He just happens to be born and raised in New York, and he just thought it would be nice to go back and, you know, try and help that town team.
All right, so with Ramirez gone, then similar with Boston, Ortiz suffered because Ramirez wasn't there to protect them. How important is it to have a power hitter at number 4?
Very important, because if that's your first, second, third hitter's your best hitter, and your leadoff hitter gets on, he can bunt, has an on-base percentage. He's the guy coming up the plate the most times with the most men on base. He has to be your RB, has to be your Tony Perez, has to be a guy that can drive in runs and likes to hit with men on base. And Manny loves to hit with men on base. And Ortiz, if you put Ortiz in front of Manny, then they don't want to walk Ortiz. They got to pitch to Manny, so Ortiz is going to get better pitches. And it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy. It goes down the line. If you put someone like Jason Bay behind Manny or Youkilis behind Manny, then they have to pitch to Manny because Youkilis is hot. Right. You look down the lineup, and then Lowell, he's having a great start in a year. All of a sudden, you're looking at 7, 8 guys that are all protecting one another. And next thing you know, you're putting 7, 8 runs up on the ball club every day.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's go on the more positive. The Red Sox and the Blue Jays have had a great start to the season.
Yes.
What did the Blue Jays do that they didn't do last year to turn it all around?
They got a new manager.
Cito.
They got Cito. They got a guy who actually knows and plays and was a great manager before and doesn't get worried, and he's a guy that's been in the trenches, you know, and you made some great acquisitions, and your pitching has been, and you got rid of Bush. You kept League, but you got rid of Bush.
Right.
I always hated to see Bush come in and then League follow him. So I saw a lot of things and stuff, but the main thing is a change of leadership. I think that was the major thing, and I think everybody, he got you swinging the bat. You know, he's a very aggressive manager and a good guy. And you played, the key is you had a really weak schedule to start out. You played a lot of dog teams early. Now you're starting to play the big boys. You're playing the Yankees and the Red Sox in Tampa Bay. You're going to find out that that great lead is only down to a half a game right now, and that they're going to be locked into a tough battle.
All right, so if you're the Blue Jays, how do you play against the Red Sox? Like, Blue Jays are built on pitching and speed.
Exactly. You beat them on AstroTurf, and when you go to Fenway Park, you don't give up home runs like you did. Their starters saw the big green monster, the wind was blowing out, the temperature was warm. They didn't know how to adapt. You got to be a sinker ball pitcher. You can't throw breaking balls in the strike zone, and you have to have a really good fastball up and in and spot it. And they didn't do that. They got behind in the count. They hung sinkers, they hung their breaking ball, and it looked like Canada Day there with fireworks going on.
Now the Red Sox have had a good start, but for some reason they can't seem to beat the Rays. What are the Rays doing so good against Boston?
I think they pitched well against them. They got them early in the season when they weren't really strong. I believe the Rays got off to a pretty poor start, and now they're starting to play a little bit better. They've got a good hitting lineup up and down. They got good closers, but they can be beat. The key is that their second baseman, their shortstop, that Bartlett guy, he just is a pain, and he seems to be an instigator and really upset the Red Sox. I don't know what it is that's got him. It could be Madden with those glasses.
Right.
The way the manager looks down there. You know, he looks like he's blind and can't see, and he should have a dog leading him out to the mound. But, you know, they seem to believe in him, and they had a great year. Pena is a great hitter in the 4 spot. You know, he's got a little bit of an uppercut swing. He's streaky. And Longoria is having a great year. They've got a good lineup, you know, but they can be beat. The thing is, you go to the South, it's hot and humid. The guys go out and they swim in the pool. They're down in Florida. These guys are sitting around coming in, and that's their home park, and they know how to take care of themselves. I believe people go to Florida and they just don't play well down there.
Is it the sun?
It could be the sun. It could be the fact that it's indoors, AstroTurf, very. Remember Minnesota when they had their seasons? They won all their games in their Astrodome. Something about enclosed stadiums. Toronto, same way.
Do you like enclosed stadiums?
I hate them.
Why?
Got it because it's too confining. It's claustrophobic.
For you.
Yeah, I pitched well.
Right.
I pitched well when the air conditioning's blowing in my face. I tend to have a good sinker, and it's hard to hit the ball through the rug when you have a good sinker. But when you get the ball up, the ball jumps in the park.
So the whole dynamics of the game changed between an open stadium and a closed stadium.
I think so, and I think the AstroTurf and the fact that the Red Sox are a notorious slow team and they don't play good on fast tracks. They like small bandboxes, slow track on the infield, soft infield allows their infielders to increase their range, and the Red Sox are built on hard throwing and good relief pitching, and one knuckleballer thrown in there to kind of mess up the work.
If you're building a team, what's your recipe for success? What do you need?
You got to have your hard thrower. You got to have your good closer. You have to have a good bullpen that is healthy and can go out there on call all the time. I think you have to have a Jamie Moyer or a soft throwing left-hander that turns the ball over. And that's kind of like your Wakefield. You can't have all your starters throw the same way. I like 4 or 5 starters, and all of them throw a little different. And in Fenway Park, I like sinker ballers. I'd love to have the guy, Holiday, that Toronto has. He can pitch at Fenway Park. He can pitch anywhere, but he can especially pitch at Fenway Park.
Would you have any lefties in the bullpen?
Yeah, you got it. I mean, Okajima has done a tremendous job. You got to have a lefty that can come in and get out a tough left-handed hitter, you know, in a tough situation. And Okajima he gets right-handers out actually a little bit better than he gets left-handers out, you know. And the key is you got these young flamethrowers, Bard and the other kid that came up from AA and from Seattle, and they can flat out deal. You know, you just got to throw strikes. The trouble is, when the Red Sox bullpen does poorly, they're throwing a lot of balls, they're getting behind hitters, and they all throw hard. But a hitter, when it's 2-0, 3-1, they're all sitting on dead red, and they're going to get it. And they're going to get it where they want it, and they're going to hit it hard.
Right, and for the starting pitch, is it harder for a left-hander to be a starter versus a setup man or a closer?
No. A good left-hander, a Johnny Padres, a Tommy John, me, guys that can spot the ball on the outside part of the plate and come into the kitchen for a bite. You know, we can pitch anywhere at any time. You just got to be smart. You got to know what the hitter can hit, and don't let him hit it. Take it away from him.
At one time in baseball, all pitchers had 3 days rest. Should they go back to that?
Yeah, they really should. And I think 4 days is fine. A 4 or 5 man rotation. I like the 3 days rest because I got into a nice rhythm, and we pitched a little differently back then. And we didn't throw as hard, and we used more different pitches, and when you're healthy, you can handle that. When you're unhealthy, you can't handle 7 days, so it doesn't really make any difference. You know, in the old days, they used to have an old timer that used to hang around, and he would pitch every Sunday, second game of a doubleheader.
Oh.
You know, but he was a guy that needed the extra rest, but was a good pitcher and did a good job on that Sunday. And great teams had that one starter back in the old days.
Oh, nice. So for a moment, we're going to shift away from Major League Baseball to something more personal for you. Last year, Alaska Midnight Sun game.
Wow. That was a tremendous thing. I was invited to go to Fairbanks, Alaska by the general manager up there, and it was the 103rd Midnight Sun game, and I had lost the 62nd Midnight Sun game back, I can't remember, 1966 or 67, and it was a great thing to go back 41 years later and demand that they let me not just throw out the first pitch, but let me pitch the ball game.
That's nice.
And I hadn't thrown in a while. I had thrown up till then. I had been working hard, and I hadn't picked up a ball for 14 days. So I was well rested, but I was a little cranky. I did a few exercises driving up the Alcan Highway and going by Denali, and I lifted rocks and took some Advil strategically and had a 6-pack of IPA from Lagunitas. And I left it in the Wasilla Best Western, which happens to be where Sarah Palin, the lieutenant governor who ended up running for vice president of the United States, was from. And they told me she was Miss Runner-Up for Miss Alaska. Well, I was married to Miss Alaska, not Miss Runner-Up. And so I left the 6-pack by accident in Wasilla, and I think it was a burnt offering to the gods, and they allowed me to pitch well, because when I went out on the mound, I warmed up and I didn't feel exceptionally well. I tripped, I stumbled. It was an AstroTurf field.
Oh.
AstroTurf infield.
Not permafrost?
Permafrost, quick track. Outfield was a little shaky. The light was good. It was a lot like this light that we're in right now. It was twilight, but the sun was out, and it was pretty good. The hitters had a pretty good background, and I hit batting practice and swung the bat well. When the game started, there was a flyover by 2 F-16s, and that really stimulated me. And to be up there, I had a tremendous first inning. Struck out the first hitter.
All right.
Got out of the first inning. Picked a guy off first base. I think I picked 2 guys off of first base. I struck out 3, walked 1, gave up 7 hits, and ended up winning the ball game. Pitched into the 7th inning. So
that's good.
I had a tremendous outing.
When you're on the pitcher's mound, could you see Russia?
No, actually, you were looking back towards Seattle. But the home, if you were at the plate and you looked over the left field wall, yeah, you could see Kotzebue and see the air coming in from Little Diomede Island and the Siberian Peninsula.
What's the baseball level in Alaska? Is that a minor league to a bigger team? Is it an indie team?
They were collegiate athletes that were draftable or guys that were going to get drafted. Basically, you sent up your good sophomore and juniors to Alaska and allowed them to maintain their eligibility, gave them jobs, and they got to play all year round. When I played, we had 14 prospects up there.
Really?
I mean, Bob Boone was my catcher. You had Tom House, Jim Barr, Brent Strom. They all pitched in the big leagues. You had, the year before, you had Rick Monday. You had, Frank Nettles, the guy who dumped me on my shoulder. You had Tom Seaver. Barry Bonds played there. You know, a lot of guys, Dave Kingman, a lot of big league ball players came out of that program. Actually, about 273 big leaguers. So I played for them against a team of stars from the Los Angeles colleges, from UCLA and Harbor City College. And,
so is it probable that the people you're playing against recently may end up being in the big leagues at one point?
Not the ones that hit against me. I think that was a depressing experience for them. I was striking them out with fastballs.
Well, they're extra excited, right?
No, I don't think so. They were swinging late. I gave up a lot of check swing fly balls to right field and stuff. I only got in trouble when I threw off-speed stuff.
But it was midnight.
Yeah, it was midnight. You're right. It was midnight for me too.
That's
They
true.
don't realize that I run the bars at midnight. These guys are out there, they were just breastfed about 15 years ago.
In 1967, at your debut at the Midnight Sun,
Yeah.
you're against a team from Japan.
Yeah, Kumagai Gumi Construction Company. They beat me.
Did they?
Oh yeah, I got waxed. I looked at this box score. It was a tough game, and then I gave up like 6 runs in the 5th and 6th inning. I had probably threw a lot of pitches. I was dead tired, and they stayed with me a little. Well, we only scored 1 run. Their pitcher threw like a 4-hitter against us. We weren't beating them that day. Didn't matter what I did.
Amazing. Now, I assume of the players, they probably had family in the stands. One generation earlier, United States versus Japan in the war. Did that carry out into the field?
Wow. It didn't for me, but I remember after I came home and my dad found out I got beat by the Japanese, he was very despondent for a while. And then when I came to Boston and when I was offered a Honda dealership, he said he would disown me.
Really?
Yeah, back in 1972, 73. And
So it carried for years.
carried for years. Oh yeah, I looked at his war records after he died and stuff. He got a Bronze Star on Okinawa, and he fought during probably one of the bloodiest battles. There were a lot of casualties on Okinawa because it was a big island and it was the last bastion of a lot of kamikazes, a lot of pilots. Basically gave up their lives for the emperor, and it was a tough time. And my dad really never got over it, and rightfully so. I mean, this was a different time, different age. But now we're buying Japanese products, and Japanese are our allies, and the Germans are our allies. Go figure.
That's good. But when you guys were playing, there wasn't any brawls?
No,
That's good.
Very, very, very polite team. They just kicked our ass and apologized.
Alright, so I'm going to close the opening part, because we
Yeah.
still have more, with a little word association. Classic and, you gotta pronounce this word, contemporary. After 4 times, I can finally say it.
Contemporary.
Contemporary.
Like
Classic.
shitty furniture.
No, it'll be newer guys and elder statesmen. So
Oh.
let's try Jason Baratek.
Croat. Frickin' a Neanderthal. Blocks the plate well. Should hit right-handed all the time. Got way too long a swing. I could get him out.
Yogi Berra.
Yogi Berra. Poet laureate of Major League Baseball.
Willie Mays.
Say hey kid. Great, best 4-tool player that ever played the game.
Oh, Ken Griffey Jr.
Pain in the ass.
Is he?
Not as nice as his dad,
Really?
Yeah, he gave a bat boy a hard time for taking one of his broken bats. Wanted to charge him $500 for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because the media loves Ken Griffey Jr. He's like the last true Hall of Famer, drug-free,
Yeah.
smile.
Well, he just, he...
$500.
Yeah, I don't know. I believe that everybody just gets, even A-Rod and all of them have tested negative 15 times.
Right.
I just think everybody could go on there on a certain day and test positive
That's true.
after having Purdue chicken or Arby's roast beef sandwich.
Duke Snyder.
Duke Snyder, great ball player, just a good friend of mine, and the greatest thing he said, that Bill Lee, he doesn't play with a full deck. But the cards he plays pretty good.
Lou Piniella, because he's still in the
Piniella.
game.
Lou Piniella, he said, I don't mind you coming into my kitchen for a bite, but don't sit down for dinner.
All right, I'm going to go with someone who came up in the news recently. Mike Marshall, Cy Young pitcher who claims he can take out the flaw in pitching.
He can.
He can?
Yeah. The trouble is, no one will let him because everybody hates him, in baseball. But he is the smartest man that I know in physiology of exercise and kinesiology, and he is by far one of the great relievers of all time. To be able to manufacture and make himself into the pitcher he was.
And he was your teammate briefly.
Briefly, I brought him over to the Winter Haven Super Sox to play, and my teammates didn't want him there.
Really?
No one wanted him there.
He was with the Expos.
Yeah, but I wasn't there when he was there. Yeah, he was an Expo player, but I brought him to the senior league after he had retired, and I wanted to learn from him, and he's just a genius.
And yet he's not appreciated in his own time.
No, he never will be. A prophet is not respected in his own time.
Oh, wow.
I'm not respected. I'm probably the second most hated guy in baseball, behind Mike Marshall, by the establishment,
right,
by the old guard, because I'm an educator and I teach a different way. I don't teach that military rah-rah way. I teach every snowflake is different. Every ball player's got to have his own self-discipline, and I would treat every ball player differently. I would never treat any of them the same.
And Mike Marshall's of the same school?
Same school.
So what does he offer that scares everyone? Like, if I can remove the flaw in pitching, why wouldn't the establishment embrace it?
Because that would put a lot of people out of work.
Oh, everyone teaching you how to do it wrong.
Exactly. There's a lot of what you call the Peter principle, where a general manager is a manager of nothing in particular. Thereby, he hires people that aren't as smart as him, and thereby you have diminished returns. You don't have people that are willing to hire people that are counterculture or people that have a different opinion. A lot of people want to be surrounded by yes men.
So baseball's
like a bunch of seagulls around them. Mine.
Okay, I'm going to move along briefly to some heated rivalries in baseball. The 1975 Red Sox and Yankees rivalry went from professional to personal boundaries. What was the defining moment to cause that 100-year feud to go into the personal realm?
Billy Martin. Billy Martin wanted a fight, and he wanted me hurt, and he wanted me run out of there, and it happened in '76. And it was all Martin. I think Martin is probably the guy that instigated it the most, or got his guys going. And the circumstances were there. I was pitching, the crash at home plate. Everything was just volatile. It was our first game of the season. We had the lead. We were the defending champions of the American League, and they said a statement that, and I ended up getting my arm broken, and it was a bad day.
Right, because prior to that, there was a heated professional rivalry. Hey, you took our players, and they went on to become all-stars. We're going to battle for the division, but from then to present day, it seems like the rivalry is now more off-field as well. I mean, there's a battle and the sound bites.
They do that because it sells tickets.
Okay.
Anytime you have a good confrontation, it's like a fight. You are going to get more people to come to a hockey game if you know it's going to be Game 7 and the gloves are going to be off, than if it's a game in the middle of the season against someone that no rivalry.
Right.
You tried it. This is the Tex Rickard, or he used to be the promoter for Dempsey and all the fight guys and stuff like that, and he liked the blood spilling off onto the babe in the third row and stuff like that. It sold tickets, and that's the whole thing about marketing and stuff. If you can get it, why does Fox TV always show me getting my ass kicked before a Yankee Red Sox rivalry? Because it gets people in the bars upset. It sells more beer, it gets more people watching, and it doesn't do anything for my psyche at all. I just
Does it cause you to drink?
Yeah, it does, and I'm going to blame it all on that. In fact, that when I go for a liver transplant, I think Miller should pony up.
In the early 1970s, the Oakland A's started a lot of controversy with Charles Finley's rules.
Yeah, long hair, have a nickname, be counterculture. Something about Oakland, because the Oakland Raiders are like that too. They were always the bad boys in football, and something about Oakland.
But despite him being a little weird, the team Finley.
Oh yeah.
But the team dominated for 3 years.
Yes.
What made them so good?
Reggie Jackson, Sal Bando, Gene Tennis, Joe Rudy, and a pitching staff that dazzled. You know? Other than that, they were just a mediocre ball club. But that's, you know, I mean, they had Vida Blue, they had Kenny Holtzman, they had Blue Moon Odom. You know, they had guys that could deal. They had Raleigh Fingers at his prime in the bullpen that could stop. I mean, they had all the ingredients for 3 straight years. You just don't get that.
You just don't get that. All right, so on a smaller scale, because it seems like all the interesting rivalries are in the American League. In the National League, you had the Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Giants. How come that rivalry's disappeared? I mean, it's still there, but it's not like it was.
Because one of them moved to San Francisco.
That's right. But the other one's in Los Angeles.
Yeah, the other one's in Los Angeles.
It's close enough to hate each other.
Yeah, they do. They do. They have some rivalries, and they used to have some good knockdown games. And I mean, they used to have Frank Howard, and they used to have Juan Marichal with the bat hitting Johnny Roseborough over the top of the head. You had them watering down the infield so Willie Davis and Wills couldn't steal. You know, it was a definite. I became a Giant fan because of Jim Ray Hart. You know, he used to drink a fifth of Wild Turkey and hit 3 home runs. You know, it was a wild ball club. The Giants would take batting practice and they would stop about half an hour into batting practice, and everybody go, "Why?" I go, "Because all the balls were gone." They were none of them in the bag and none of them in the park.
But I mean, the rivalry was so much that Jackie Robinson, when he was sold to the Giants, refused to play.
Wow. That was because there were a lot of racists around and a lot of bad things, bad blood had happened back in the days when he was starting out, before he was allowed to take the gloves off and to retaliate. It took a long time. You know, Jackie, as great as he was, you know, he had chip. You know, he was a tough cookie. It kind of wore him down and made his life shortened, I believe, because he had a lot of pressure on him.
Poor guy, poor guy. Why is it that the American League have all the interesting rivalries? And in the National League, it's, you know, it's good, but no one hates each other.
Wow. I think it's the American League East. I think it's that media thing that every team's out here and they want it. It sells more tickets, you know, and the American League has the designated hitter. They have the one extra hitter. The games go longer. The pitcher has no, he doesn't have to, he retaliates, but he has no consequence because he never comes to the plate.
Right.
Where in the National League, it's more of a self-governed, more of a, it's a better league, and there's more patience, and the game is played a different way than the American League. I believe the American League way of playing ball is not right. Just because you win all the time doesn't justify that it's right.
Right.
It's over-specialization. Their prices have risen, and people aren't going to the ballparks because the prices are too high.
I saw that. So let's talk about managing then. How does a person manage differently in the American League versus in the National League?
He can sleep in longer. He puts his lineup up, and he doesn't have to think.
Right.
Where in the National League, you got to make decisions. You got to know when to pitch hit. You got to know when to get pitchers out of the lineup. You got to do a lot more things in the National League than you do in the American League. And you know, I think it's easier to manage in the American League. A lot easier. I mean, it could be harder in some respects because you get locked in and you don't see change when you need it.
Right.
And you got to be there to see it. I think Ozzie Guillen's good, and Frank Conan knows his personnel really well. You know, I think he's lucky. He's been very lucky. Gosh, yeah, he's been lucky. You know, and you got to be lucky. A guy like him was injured, you know, and came out of Montreal. Has got a great father that knew the ball game.
Right.
You know, I'm glad he's doing well.
So what's the criteria to be a good manager?
You have to have patience. You have to, like he put Ortiz back in the lineup after just realizing that, you know, you can't sit him on the bench because there's nowhere else for the rest of your players to sit. So you got to do a lot of things. You got to be able to forgive and forget to be a good manager. You can't have a doghouse. You can't be like Zimmer. You can't be. There's a lot of good managers out there, And you got to have a sense of humor. Ozzie Guillen, after he got beat, gave up 20 runs. He said, at least Roberto Colon's going to be well rested. That's good.
When you build a team, do you build them differently for the American League versus the National League?
Yeah, I think you don't have to run as much. They don't seem to bunt in the American League. They rely on the 3-run homer. I think you got to have a really strong bullpen because your starters don't go as far in the American League. I like bunting in certain circumstances. The Red Sox would have been 4-2 on the road trip if they had just bunted twice and advanced a runner one time. And late in the game, especially, when you need that extra run. And I believe that they don't do enough of that in the American League. The games are too long. Pitchers are throwing too many pitches. They nibble too much. This is not good for your fan base, I think, over the long run. I think people want games to be 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 hours and 30 minutes maximum. When I played, the games would go an hour and 50 minutes to 2 hours and 30 minutes. Now your average game is over 3 hours, and your long games are 4.5.
So if I built a team, say the atypical American League style, and I had them play in the National League for a full season, would I do well, all things being equal?
Probably, because you get more hitters. I think there's more money being spent in the American League.
Okay.
There's more speed and development in the National League. And there's just, I think the statistics have shown the National League does win the World Series. They don't win the All-Star game. The stats can't be that wrong all the time.
Right.
So there's wherever the money's spent, and I think it's tough. National League, you got a lot of guys coming up. I think there's a lot more younger ball players and stuff. I look at I don't get to see National League games that much, except when I'm in LA and not LA, but in San Francisco. And I love watching the Giants. I like Lincecum. I think he's the greatest young pitcher out there. Pound for pound, he's the best pitcher in baseball.
All right, here's the most awkward moment for a manager. You're a pitcher. Took you a lifetime to get to that moment. You're competitive. And the manager says, I want you to intentionally walk this man. Does that ever create tension?
No, because it's best for the ball club. He wants to put that, because that run doesn't mean anything, and he's going to get a force somewhere else. An intentional walk is a very good weapon to put a good hitter that you're having trouble getting out, to go to a weaker hitter. The hardest thing is to intentionally walk a guy and then have him take you out of the game.
Right.
And bring someone else in to do your job for you. And then that guy does a bad job. And the guy that you walked ends up being, usually very seldom is it the winning run that you're putting on base, or the go-ahead run, or the tying run. Very seldom you put those kind of runners on base. You usually put a runner on base that is insignificant.
Okay.
So the intentional walk is a strategy that's used, to probably get a double play. Me, I walk guys intentionally all the time, or semi-intentionally to get the double play. The walk, you got to know when to walk a guy.
All right.
Even when you don't intentionally walk a guy, you got to know when to pitch around a guy. Pitch around a guy that's hot. Pitch around a guy in a situation where you got a weaker hitter behind him, and you got a chance for a double play. That's what I did. That doesn't bother me. I would say when he says intentionally hit some guy.
Right.
That would bother me, because I will hit a guy in a heartbeat, but I want to do it on my own.
You want to be the Teflon Don.
Exactly. I want to do it on my own. I want to pick the guy I want to hit, and I want to pick the situation I want to hit him in. Because I don't want to hit a guy, and that guy turns around and scores and beats you.
Right.
That's terrible.
It's a sinking feeling.
Or walking someone you don't like when you want to get him out, and then you can't throw strikes. That is the most frustrating thing.
But based on stats, even if a guy is a power hitter, he only has maybe a 3% chance more than the guy after him to really hurt you. So why not just go for the out all the time?
That 3%.
That's the big delta difference?
The big delta difference.
Ah.
We're like that. We're stats oriented. We know that over the course of 100 games, those 3 games may be the difference in the pennant.
Sure.
And because I did that at a certain time, and the law of averages and that 3% will come back and haunt you. The game of baseball is won in the end mostly by 1 or 2 ball games over 162.
Right.
So it's your brain and statistics. We have this built into our brain that we know that I'm going to throw, you know, and I won 119 and lost 90, I think. So I only won 30 games more than I lost. And that is a big number in baseball, you know.
Oh, I see.
You see what I mean?
I see what you mean.
And that's, I had a winning percentage of like 598 or something like that. I don't know what it was, but that's better than most, you know. And it was that pitching around that one guy in that one situation. I'll tell you an example. I'm pitching in a day game, Comiskey Park. I've got a 2-run lead. I get a runner at first base and nobody out. And Buddy Bradford comes in to pitch hit, right-handed hitter. Casco comes out to get me. I'm bringing in the right-hander. I go, why? I said, I got a 2-run lead. He says, well, they're bringing a right-hander. I said, I'm going to make this guy hit the ball on the ground and get a double play. You know? And he goes, oh, really? Yeah. I said, I know I can get this guy to hit the ball on the ground. So he leads me in. First pitch, ground ball, double play. Now Richie Allen comes up. First pitch, change up away, hits a home run 400 feet away. You know? But I ended up getting the next guy out, but I didn't give up the 2-run homer to him because I knew Bradford, I'm going to get it hit in a double play.
So when you give up a home run to, say, Hank Aaron, how do you feel after the next pitch? How do you calm down?
Doesn't bother me at all.
No?
In fact, the home run I did give up to Frank Aaron, I was trying to give him a home run. Not give him a home run. It was the first time and the only time I ever challenged him in my career. I pitched against him for 2 years, and I stayed away from him. Stayed away from him. Didn't give him anything he could pull. Pitched him away because he was old. He couldn't drive the ball the other way. I got him out every time. And then finally I had a big lead. Last game of the season, he was up, and the wind was blowing in from left, and I said, I'm going to throw him some cutters in and see what he can do with it. Pow!
Oh.
He hit a rocket.
Was that a sign of weakness? You're like, oh.
No, I just wanted to see what all the hoopla was. You know, why this guy was so good. And I found out, you know, he hit the ball and he didn't hook it. Most guys, you pitch them inside like that, they top hand it. When they're older, their foundation is gone and they end up rolling over the ball and hooking it foul. But he went bam, bottom hand. The ball went right down the third base line and it lifted up and went into the screen against a 30-mile-an-hour wind.
Really?
Thing landed softly. It landed like a butterfly with sneakers.
So even God couldn't stop it?
No, it went right through the wind. It cut through the wind like a hot knife through butter. It had the nicest backspin on it. It looked like a hooded 7-iron.
That's amazing. That is amazing. All right, so when building your ball club, the outfield, do you give up a little on defense for a good offensive outfielder? Because right fielders are normally good with the bat, but their gloves are suspect.
No, I want guys that'll play defense all the time, and eventually they'll hit. You know, and you've got to be a good glove man to play for me. You got to be good to defense. You got to be a 4-tool player. You got to be. I mean, I want the best.
Right.
You're not going to get that, but you have to. You know, but yeah, I mean, Dwight Evans, he didn't hit that well when he was early, but he was a good defensive ball player. He eventually came around and hit. Hitting is a skill that's acquired late in life. You may have it early, and then it's fleeting, and you'll lose it, and then you've got to gain your confidence back. Hitting is persistence, whereas defense is every day. You got to show up to play every day and play. So that's like Bill Russell in basketball.
Right.
Bill Russell, his first game in college, he plays against an All-American from Cal. The guy comes into him, and the first 5 shots the guy took, Bill Russell blocked. And his coach says, we don't play defense. His coach, he says, you're not supposed to leave your feet. That's a sign of weakness. Excuse me?
You're right.
The proof's in the pudding.
Right.
Maybe you should leave your feet sometimes, coach. Bill Russell, to this day, never mentions that coach's name.
That's nice of him, though.
It is.
It's nice.
Bill Russell's a steel trap. Boy, does he got a memory. And he was the best defensive ball player in any sport at any time. And he learned to shoot, and he learned that. So take the defense. If the other team never scores, you can never lose.
Ooh, that's right. Because you just need one run.
You just need one run.
Oh, but Manny Ramirez is good at the bat, but in the outfield...
He can play.
Can he?
Oh yeah, he can make plays and stuff. Sometimes he dogs it and everything else. But Manny, when he does make a mistake, he'll come back and get you 2 or 3 runs.
Okay.
In a heartbeat. You know what I mean? He kind of, his plus minus is unbelievable.
Larry Walker.
Larry Walker.
But he was good at both.
He was a great defensive player and he was a great hitter. Great ball player.
Okay, I'm going to skip ahead. On shortstop, I'm going to name 3 people. They're completely different. But what do you need to be a great shortstop? You have Cal Ripken Jr., Ozzie Smith, and Derek Jeter. So when you have a shortstop...
Ozzie Smith.
Ozzie Smith?
Because he's got better range, he can go get him, and he gets on base. I will take him over all the others. Jeter is not that good at defensive shortstop. His range is not that good. He's a smart ball player, hits the ball the other way. He'd be a good number 2 hitter. Cal Ripken, longevity, but hit the long ball, but he eventually his defensive skills diminished. Ozzie was defense all the way up till the end.
Oh, nice, nice. So I'm going to close it off quickly. The art of pitching, is it dying?
Yes, the art of pitching is dead.
Why?
Because radar guns, cookie cutter, they don't drop and drive. The designated hitter, you get pitchers that are cowards out there. You know, the art of pitching is really in total disarray. And the art of throwing is out there fine, but pitching, you know, is, I think the Glavins, the Maddoxes. Maddox was the best. Maddox could pitch both sides of the plate. He could add and subtract, and he could field his position.
And that's good, but how about the trick pitches? There's not a lot of variety in pitches anymore.
You're right. That's exactly what I'm saying. They don't do it because everything's about velocity. Right. Everything's about the clearing out and throwing hard, and they don't decelerate properly. They blow their rotator cuffs. They've got them on machines. They've got them on pills. They've got them on all these exercises. They don't throw enough. In the old days, I used to throw batting practice after every start. I would go out and throw 20 minutes to my team in batting practice and let them hit.
Nice.
Let them hit, let them hit, let them hit. They love that because I throw strikes, I let them hit. Make them look good. You know, get them out there, get their confidence level up.
Is the knuckleball dead?
No, the knuckleball it's alive in Wakefield's hand, but it's not being taught since no one's teaching it. You know, Wakefield ain't going to teach anybody yet because, you know, that's his pitch.
Right, and coaches are only teaching velocity.
Velocity. Knuckleball is a fickle fate of it. Just out there dances. You know, it's to the wind, and I'll tell you, Wakefield gets better every year. He's unbelievable.
What are the top 3 pitches ever? I mean, you have the fastball, the curveball.
In my mind, if you can throw 96 up and in and spot it all day long, you will never lose. You know, you will never lose because you can't hit it. But no one can throw that pitch all the time. It takes too much out of you. So you got to learn to throw the sinker low and away and the circle change and the overhand deuce. You have to. It's too hard to throw the same pitch all the time. You use gravity, use the sinker. I think when you learn to throw a first pitch sinker right down the middle and be able to change speed on it, you can get a guy, you know. Most hitters are up there now taking the first pitch anyway. Why not just throw a half-speed fastball down the middle?
Right.
Don't use any effort. He's going to take it anyway. Then your second pitch, throw it a little harder, hard sinker, that far off the plate, sinks that much. He's got to swing at it. He hits a weak ground ball to second.
Are the rules?
Then they'll start saying, hey, he throws me a good pitch first pitch. I'm going to hit the first pitch. Next time you throw him a slow curveball first pitch. And he check swings and hits a little tapper back to him. You throw him out and you go, that. You know? And that's pitching. You got to know when to throw a strike and when not to throw a strike.
Interesting, interesting. And the pitching mound is lower than it used to be?
Yeah, they raised it, and then everybody had ERAs Tiant had a 1.19, struck out 21 guys or 17 guys, and Bob Gibson was unhittable, and all these big hard throwers were unhittable. and they decided to lower it. And, you know, every law, every change in rules has always been to diminish the pitcher's ability. Every rule.
Every rule?
Every rule. You can look it up. Used to be 5 balls, then they went down to 4,
Right.
and they lowered the mound. You weren't allowed to throw spitballs anymore. Every rule or change in rules has been to lessen the pitcher's ability, not to increase it.
Why?
Run production. Hitters control the game. There's more hitters than there are pitchers on the field at any given time. Very few of your managers are pitchers. You know, all your people in position or your in baseball, very few of them are pitchers. They're all hitters. Hitters and pitchers will never meet. The twain shall never meet.
That's right.
We make our living getting them out. They make their living. Ted Williams said pitchers are the dumbest people in the world. You know, so the two of them have this animosity that'll always be there.
Yeah, but he lost his head, so.
Yeah, that's right. But I took his head out of the cryogenics lab and stole it and was bringing it back through St. Louis. And it was good because I had Ted's head. I could drive in the HOV lanes. And he carried on a pretty good conversation.
So at your baseball clinics, do you teach the art of pitching?
I teach the art of pitching. I'll be doing it in, where am I playing, hon? Il Bazar. No, not Il Bazar. Saint Lazare.
Oh,
Next Saturday.
excellent, excellent.
I'll be doing a clinic in Saint Lazare next Saturday.
That's so good.
Teaching it. So if anybody wants to learn to pitch, that's what I teach.
All right.
And hitting. You want to eat?
Sure.
Let's eat.
Let's see. Yeah, sounds